Welcome to Bases 102, Part 2, with Julie Phelps from the northwest of England. So, there's a lot seems to be going on. I'm going to actually turn the phone off this time. There's a heck of a lot going on, Julie. And I noticed that you've got some very important photographs, such as actually proving you're in the RAF. And also you've got a very grand photograph of yourself meeting the Air Commodore.
Yeah, I have.
Now, I actually have to say, I thought you only had Commodores were only in the Navy, because a colleague of mine in at Sky used to be in the RAF. In fact, he used to be the flight engineer on Vulcan bombers, and I always used to slag him off, calling him a Commodore, and I didn't know there was an actual rank in the RAF. I thought it was a Navy term.
Yeah, it's Air Marshal's the highest, and then it goes down from there, Vice Marshal, and then Commodore, and then it goes down from there. So,
but he was meeting you. Was it because you were one of the few women recruits, or what was the reason?
Yeah, he was meeting me. He was asking me all sorts of personal questions that day. I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to be in trouble with the station commander, who was standing there as well. I was like, don't ask me that.
Well, I think when a superior officer asks you a question, you answer the superior officer and respect, of course, all ranks within the relevant military order, thereby getting you off the hook, young lady.
It was a good job, yeah. Because I was living off base with my fiance, but I wasn't legally living off base at the time. You know how you couldn't do that in them days.
Oh,
I think you can now, but
oh Jesus! So you're basically a rebel.
Of course, yeah.
But is that why you were sort of chosen to do the sort of things you were doing?
Probably, I should think so. Yeah, and I was really one of the few women who was doing aircraft mechanic propulsion. I mean, there was only 2 women on our section. There was like 50 odd guys, and then us 2. And the other lady was airframes, and I was propulsion. And so, like, you don't get any changing rooms or anything. You got to change where the men are. You got to like use their washrooms, knock, and like. I was always very polite.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, we've had women in the RAF before. But, I mean, how did all that feel to you at that time? And why did you join in the first place?
Well, that was, I just got this vision. That was all to do with the Illuminati and stuff. I mean, now I realise they'd put that into my mind, the mind control, to actually go and join. And then within like a couple of weeks, they wanted me in within a couple of weeks. And I said, well, I haven't got all the equipment, hairdryer even. So, I was in within about 3 weeks, and I got to the basic training, and they said, I was talking to other people, and they said, oh, it took us ages to get in. How come you got in so quick? And it was like, well, they wanted me. So, I was like steered into the propulsion side as well.
Is that because it got you? Is that because it got you to different? It got you stationed to different things? Because I remember talking to John Irwin. I mean, I don't know if you know who John Irwin was. He was effectively one of the early super soldiers, joined a special unit called the 16. But when he joined the army it was part of national service. He, like you, straight in there, and he was given a position of being in the catering corps. Which meant you could go to many different places because the catering corps was everywhere. But if you were in one particular specific branch, it would be difficult for you to see why you would go somewhere else and all that.
Well, it's, in the Air Force, you're kind of allocated as an individual. You're not like in the Army where you join a particular squadron or anything, like you don't have a particular group and they stick together. So you're very much individual. But I went down to RAF Holton, and it was now recalled memories there that I visited Waddington Hall. Waddington, I can never say it, but where the Rothschilds are. And also I have recall of an underground base. Now, I can't positively say it was Peasmore, but it could have been because I didn't know the name, but it was definitely underground, and it wasn't
I mean,
that
there's
far from
Foley. I mean, you're talking Barry King stuff now,
yeah, it's
and Barry
yeah.
King's not his real name.
Well, for me, it was I do have a recall of some of that now, and yeah, they were doing computer interfacing with me, but also they did some torture too. But they weren't meant to do the torture; they were just taking advantage. And I had a friend who was with me, and she didn't survive in the end. And more recently, I was Skyping a friend of mine, well, Zooming, and I was recalling her, and I was calling forth Palladians to help her because I realized she'd been trapped, her soul had been trapped. And it actually showed it on the video, which I did share with you, but you said you had problems watching it, I think. I think it's on Google Drive.
I've got the one you said on the Black Goo, which is an audio file.
The
It's a
audio.
WAV file.
Yeah, 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 the
Now,
Black
I
Goo,
wanna go back before we race on here.
mm.
What do you mean you think you even mentioned Peasmore, and where was that base, that hole you mentioned?
Right.
Are we talking
Uh,
Somerset, Berkshire, or Wiltshire?
uh, uh, oh, is it Berkshire? Is it Berkshire? RAF Holton. Um,
Is that
oh,
near Welford,
Buckinghamshire.
RAF
Sorry,
Welford?
sorry, Buckinghamshire. Sorry, my memory.
Okay, no, that's
It's
okay.
Buckinghamshire. So it's like if you look at it's near Aylesbury.
Yeah,
It's like just down the road from Aylesbury, and it's just like Wendover is about the closest place to
and that's basically
RAF Holton.
The Thames Valley.
Uh, God, now you're asking me. I'd have to look on the map. I remember the hills being all around there. It was really hilly around there. Um, and I remember like green, like army trucks, you know, the canvas back trucks. I remember going in one of them. Uh, and I remember as well, this was before I got some more recall. I remember the guys at the base when I was doing my training. I remember we were doing like near the leaving do before we left there, went to our camps. And they said, "Where have you been? We haven't seen you. Where have you been? You know, every night you're disappearing. Where you going?" And I was like, "I'm here," you know, because I didn't recall it. It's like, but I do remember them saying that to me, and like it confused me. I said, "Well, I'm here." So they recalled me disappearing.
But what about getting a night's sleep, for Christ's sake? I mean, how do you work that out?
I don't think you do get a lot of sleep, literally. I
But
mean,
how does
even now,
that? How do you
I'm
repair your?
struggling.
How do you sleep? Sleep. You've got to get a rest somehow.
I'm just exhausted most of the time. I mean, and they'll do so many hours and then they'll bring you back. So you won't have a good night's sleep, that's for certain. But I don't remember. It's like a lot of the time, it was like as soon as like you had your evening meal, then time just sort of disappeared. So um, they would have allowed you some sleep. Um, but even now, I mean, um,
Or was there a time compress involved? Were you actually going somewhere in a shorter time than it took when you came back?
I actually don't know because I recall the trucks in this instance. I mean, some of the other stuff, like the Mars stuff, yeah, they'll have done something like that in that case.
How did you
But with
get to
this,
Mars?
well, I was used for portal jumping too, um, when I was younger. So how did I get to Mars? Through the portals.
And what do you mean by
Uh,
younger?
well, I remember when I was about 9. This was like after like kind of initiation time.
What do you
I
mean?
remember
What do you
like
mean by initiation?
we're going back now, right? Um, when I was 9, I recall it was kind of a wedding, but the night before, There was some sort of ritual, and I was like sold to kind of the highest bidder, which was like the Rothschilds and Illuminati. And from there, I do recall, this is like regression now because there wasn't much recall about this, but through regression hypnosis, I always had a problem with like the bottom step of stairs. Always. I've fallen downstairs before now because I missed the bottom step. And there's something like, it's like stepping into a void. I have huge difficulty with the bottom step. So I thought, right, I'm going to ask on the regression, why do I have an issue with the bottom step of stairs? And it came back about experimental portals that were being used, the jump gates. Some were different shapes, and some you went down steps into them and you kind of fell through them.
Now, I have to say that in a recent visit I made to a different country, there was a portal shaped like you can see me. You can see me. Yeah. It was shaped like in the planet, the Forbidden Planet, in that you had a flat bottom floor, and then it was 5-sided. So 4, and I actually went through that and had a very strange feeling. And it was noticeable that at the very top of the top of the, is it a pentagram? Not a pentagram. 5-sided figure. At the very top, it wouldn't take a light bulb. There were light bulbs in along, but that particular bit, that for some reason it couldn't have a light bulb, which was interesting from the point of view of the people who were there. It was just a house, but going through that shape was really weird. Was it anything like that? What were the differences in the portal?
There were different shapes. Now I recall, like, there were triangular shapes that they were trying, and there were square shapes, and there were rectangle shapes. But it was the entrance into them too that they were.
Now, I'm going to stop you again here. This sounds very, very like Play School. In the morning kiddies programs, and today we're going through the square window. Today we're going through the triangular window. That's very, very like BBC Two television, 11 o'clock in the morning, Play School. Because a lot of those BBC programs were MK Ultra. The Jack and Ori, the Magic Roundabout, the Little Song. Is this anything to do with all that? Because that's so what you just said is so like Play School.
I don't know. I mean, all I know is from the regression that I did, and they were saying it was portals. And I do have the real terrible, most of my life I tried to find answers to going, when I got taken to a different dimension, that was a really dark dimension. This was like, I connected with, this was more connecting with like a jinn or something, but I connected with its kind of eyes. And I ended up going down to its actual domain, as it were, its realm. And that was like, you don't want to go there. It's like, I never want to go back there.
Describe it. Describe the eyes. How did you know it was, what form did it have?
Well, it appeared like a wispy cloud in my bedroom. And then it took like a shape, like a hooded shape, like a cloak shape.
Yeah.
And then I caught its size, and I seemed to connect with it. I just have this ability to connect with things. It may have been an accident, I don't know, but I connected with it, and then I felt myself drawn out my body, and I ended up in this extremely dark domain that was like completely absent of any form of light, any form of it's like a complete emptiness, so empty. It is actually impossible to describe, but it's movies that have come close to kind of describing it, as in relatively, is like Event Horizon, where they were doing like a dark matter engine. If you ever saw that movie,
yeah.
And it was like a dark. They were using dark matter, I think, in that, or like a black hole substance.
It was the Event Horizon of a black hole. I think that's what.
Yeah, and they kind of tried to that because I found that very disturbing, that movie, because it was like they tried to sort of reflect a very dark place that they ended up going to, like a different dimension.
It had Sam Neill in it as well, and he played a lot of the movies, which did the devil, all that stuff.
Mm, yeah, but yeah, that I always asked a lot of people if they had ever experienced, has anybody ever survived that, coming back from that? And I'd never found anybody actually who survived going into such a dark um, realm. Because when I got there were some souls that were seemed to be lost, and they were attracted to me, like uh, like to my light, and I couldn't help them, so that really haunted me because I
Did
couldn't
they
free them. I was
communicate?
trying
Did
to
they
survive
communicate in
myself.
any way?
They were just like they'd gone insane. You couldn't stay in that domain very long without going insane. I was just like hanging on to try and get out there
Was it
because
a little bit like the sensory deprivation experiments? They did a lot of those in Northern Ireland and
well, I know
SRI.
when I came back to my body, I wasn't breathing, and I knew I hadn't got long to live. So it was like I just managed to get back because I thought if I died, would I have stayed there? So it was like really terrifying that.
Now, what do you mean you got back to your body? Do you want to tell
Yeah,
the dog? Do you want to tell the dog that it's going to be okay? No.
it's all right, Raven.
Yeah.
Settle down.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know
Yeah,
dogs can pick up on the senses of the humans, and they could be maybe
yeah,
disturbed.
she can because she's been traumatized before by stuff. Yeah, so yeah, that was one of the most disturbing.
Now, was that like a mission, so you could experience that?
I don't know because I saw it as a child. You see, as a child's eye, I was in my bedroom for that one. So I don't know if it's like a slight mass memory, but I never, that was never forgotten my whole life. That was not something they could wipe out or anybody could wipe from me. That was extremely disturbing, and it took, I was terrified of dying because of that experience because I didn't want to end up there. I thought, am I going to end up there? So, but now with my current experience, I realize I won't. But at that time, yeah, I was really scared a lot of my life through that. Um,
So where? Okay, this is something that you recalled with regression in Canada, or when did you recall that?
this actual incident, I never forgot. So that particular incident, I never forgot that. So that's been a memory my whole entire life, and I have full recall of that. But these portal uh, things were through regression. Now, I would have thought if it was play school or something like that, I would have thought they would have come through in the regression as play school, if you know what I mean. They wouldn't be coming through as um, uh, going through portals.
I'm
Uh,
thinking that the BBC was that was meant to be a phone. Phone's meant to be off. I'm thinking more of a situation where children who were watching Play School were being basically programmed for maybe use with the RAF or some other organization.
well, they might have been. I don't know enough about that, but I do. One of my contacts on Facebook brought something up, which is something at school that happened because I was dyslexic. They put me through an ITA program, and that was like a special reading program. And I was looking. He brought it up to me, and he's gone to the Illuminati. He plays instruments for the Rothschilds and things like that. And he said it was a form of programming too, because I would have to share with you some of the documents and things because they're done in such a way to almost like create sex slaves. The way it was a phonetic alphabet, it wasn't a normal alphabet, and it was very, very strange. I would have to show it you to actually so you could understand it.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to show it maybe on Sunday.
Yeah, I could print some off
Yeah.
and show that on Sunday. Yeah.
I think the idea the idea about Sunday is to have a sort of relaxed sort of chat thing. I know Christine. I don't really. I mean, this is not really relevant to this particular part, but since it's coming this Sunday, yeah, Christine Hartz wants to get certain things down on terms of just get it on a record in terms of MK Ultra and all that stuff. But you mentioned Peasmore.
Mm.
Have you got any recall or do you know of any of the programs which the likes of James Casbolt, the likes of Max Spears, Kieran Lee Perrin, other people? I don't want to mention too many names. What about them?
James seems very familiar to me, actually, but I'd have to watch more of his.
I mean, he's
and quite disturbing. What
yes.
I remember about him. But obviously, people change and things like that. But from what I recall, I do actually feel I recall him. But it's like a cloudy memory,
right?
So I can't say 100%. But
did you do any? Would you know of Burnworthy Manor?
I think it was be something I need to see, probably see in person again.
It's down in, I think it's down near Taunton, Black Mountain Hills.
I'll have to look it up, actually.
There's actually an RAF base there. It's actually it's like a lot of these things. It's a runway on top of I think it's a Blackdown Hills. It's down near Taunton, so it was going to be used. Apparently, in World War II, Hitler would have made that one of his major base of operations had he won. Then some people think he did. What about Nazis? Fourth Reich training with that in Canada. If I mentioned Nelson, does that mean anything to you?
Relatives have come from there, but
what do you mean there?
Well, Nelson, are you talking like a place, Nelson, or a base?
It's a base. It's actually a place in Canada.
Oh, I don't know. I don't recall a base in Canada.
Because you're a completely different generation. I mean, this is probably too far back for you.
Yeah, I don't recall a base. I don't recall Nelson at all.
I have to say, I'm interested in this because I went to Canada for a year. I loved it there, but my name was literally picked out of a hat. It was completely not coincidence, and I spent a whole year there, and I really loved it in Ontario. So, what do you want to talk about Canada, or why did you go out there?
Well, I think I said on my last interview, I married a Canadian, so I ended up going out there. Sorry. But I did. I mean, I've got photos of craft out there, UFOs, as it were, various sorts. So it was very much a hot spot where I was living anyway. And I tell you, my recall started to come back more once the ET started to show up. It seemed to trigger some of the mind blocks.
Okay.
And
or was that deliberately were they introduced? Do you feel to basically let those mind blocks open?
I think so, and I think I think they could be having influences on other people too. Because I don't think it's just the vibration rising on the planet why these mind blocks are breaking down. I do feel like I think I have read a few other people who've seen ETs before it started breaking down.
Yeah.
And I've got a colleague in Australia. We were communicating anyway, and we were recalling between us more and more. My husband at the time was aware of this, and I've got friends there who've seen UFOs where I was living, and I've got friends who was telling me there's a base under Lake Erie, and I would agree with that because I saw craft going towards that area.
Yeah.
And and there's a huge amount of activity, and there's even weird things on what they call Zug Island, which is near Windsor, which is very odd.
Yeah,
Everybody finds it
I've
very
been to
odd down there.
Windsor, Ontario. Yeah.
Yeah, Windsor, Ontario. And they call it the Windsor hum as well. There's this strange hum that they recorded, and they still haven't found out what it
It's
was.
acoustic. It can be heard.
Yeah, I heard it when I was in Windsor too, and they never made a conclusion of what it was, but there was something going on.
And was it a regular hum, or was it like a pumping sort of bubble bubble, or what?
It was a kind of regular hum, but it would only happen every so often. So I don't know exactly what it was. I mean, it may have been maybe an underground train or something like that. I don't know what it was. It was a strange sound, so I'm not certain what would make that sound.
Okay, spinning back to Peasmore, early years, Berkshire, age of 9. Did anything happen earlier than 9? Was anything odd about your christening or visitors as a child?
Oh, when I was like really young, my first memories were of very little beings that I used to go play with them at night. And they were I mean, I was only tiny, so I was able to walk, but they would only be about this big, which would be, how many inches is that? About 10 or 12 inches. So about a foot. And that all stopped when I was about 6. Now, 6 was the time of the trauma-based mind control that I now recall, and that's a long story going into that aspect because I didn't know I was going to talk about that today.
Well, if you want to talk about something, talk about it.
That aspect I don't want to talk too many times about it because it is really horrific. But I do remember being taken. I don't know how I got there, but I remember waking up in a base underground because it was like, I mean, I have got drawings that I did for this, a lot of drawings, but I haven't got the file out right now.
Where was the base? Where was it? What number did it have? What base number?
Well, I don't know. I'm not very good with numbers, but from what it could be RAF Wharton, which is not far from here, but underground, which is an experimental base anyway. It's like an aircraft.
Now you're in the northwest of England right now.
Yeah.
So would that be in the Lake District or?
No, in Lancashire.
Or Lancashire.
Yeah.
Anywhere near the BBC transmitter up in just north of Manchester itself? The mountains up there?
I don't think it'd be as far as that. But I mean, I'm not certain. I'm not 100% certain which base it was. But it was underground. And this is where I recall. I recall being in there and very upset, and it was like an underground room with like grey walls and very damp. And I remember the light fittings were like enamel. They were like a grey enamel, like a bell shape sort of thing, and they were white enamel inside. And I remember the door was like a grey metal door that was like a dark grey, which was riveted, no door handle on the inside. It was just a little slot that would open and shut, all riveted. And then some really big guys came in. There were 3 of them, and they brought another 2 children in. One was a boy, one was a girl.
Can you describe the children? Can you describe the big guys?
Well, the big guys were dressed all in black, but they had no insignia on their arms. There was no no like badges or anything. They were just plain black uniforms. There was nothing on there to show you who, what sort of military group or something they would be. For some
Did you
reason,
see
I don't know.
any delta symbols anywhere?
No, there was absolutely nothing on them. They were they were just black uniforms and no symbols on them, which was, this is what I've recalled because I recalled it in detail going into that. The children, it's hard to describe them because
were they your sort of
I don't
age?
really want to. Yeah, they were my age, but the girl had kind of quite long hair. What colour? I'm not going into this fully at the moment because it's really difficult for me to go into it because it's so traumatic. I'm kind of staying on the periphery of it.
Okay, well, keep yourself safe. And I may ask questions which are interesting from the point of view of investigation, but
Yeah,
may
that's all
not
right.
may not be in any way necessarily a good thing for you yourself. So, insofar as I'm doing that, always protect yourself in that regard.
Yeah. I can more or less protect myself with it, but I can't. If I go too much into the details of the children, it's going to emotionally draw me in too deep.
Yeah, in other words,
That's the problem.
re-traumatize. I don't want you to
Yeah,
re-traumatize.
yeah. So, what I remember is the guys. I mean, I was crying and everything, and the guys were really strict and really brutal. They just like grabbed you and things, and then they had like like the paper lolly sticks that were wrapped up when when you don't have them now, they're plastic now, but they're like the
Wooden
white.
spatulas, yeah.
Well, they were like lolly sticks, like wrapped up paper but really tight, sticks. There was like he was holding 3 of those and he told me I had to pick one, so I picked one, and then the other 2 picked one, and I got the short one, as it were, the short straw in those, as a
Yeah.
terminology. And I was absolutely terrified then because I thought, you've got the worst deal here, whatever it is. But I was told then to pick one of the others between the girl and the boy. And I don't know, I picked the boy because, it's just a kind of instinct because I felt more for the girl sort of thing. And then they kind of brutally killed him in front of me, and blamed me for it. So that was just too much for me. I just broke at that point. It was too much for me at such a young age to blame me for something like that. So
now that was designed to cause you trauma and therefore induce a different personality so you could be controlled better.
Yeah, it fractured my core self.
Yeah. It is a standard technique. The Spartans did that. The Spartans would train their soldiers that way. They get them to do that. And it's something which I think James mentioned, and it's also something that Max mentioned when they went in with children at Greenham Common to the Peasmore area.
But I remember as well that when I fractured, I just went in this black area in my own mind. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't hear anything. I was just like totally cut off. And then whatever happened, I don't, it's kind of flashes of things that happened. But I do know one thing that they did, and I'm not sure I can say it, but I might be able to, and I see it all the time now. It's on so many different things. It's eyes. They do the eyes.
Yes.
They take the eyes out. And that is something I am totally squeamish about, because it's even on those bloody what is it? Children, that teddy bear with the eye.
Yes,
The bandaged off.
yes, the teddy bear.
Yeah.
That's very important because I think. What do you feel about that? I mean, I have my own views about the
It
BBC's
makes me
Children
feel
in Need.
it makes me feel sick because I tell you, Epstein. Do you know what Simon said about one of his broadcasts? He said about when you went into Epstein's building, his home, there was eyes all over the wall,
Yeah.
obviously artificial, and that triggered it. I thought eyes, yeah, because they removed the frigging eyes.
Well, I have to say that at Sky, in 2009, I've mentioned this several times before, but at Sky, they got the staff to draw or paint anything that came into their mind on white bathroom tiles. And those dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures drawn by the staff all had eyes on them, with squirrely things coming from them, like tendrils.
Yeah, like what comes out with the eye. Yeah, it it's something. Yeah, I've never actually been able to say that before. I've never even said it to Simon when he was deprogramming me because
Well, I'll say it here. In my estimation, the staff at Sky Television were all being mind controlled, staff en masse, traumatized, and there was a regime.
Like,
yeah, this was on every single one of those pictures. And then I tried to draw something different, and it was either that or the full eye or the eyelid opening up.
And I think it's to do with it's a sickness or a twisted version of like the Eye of Horus, taking the eye out. And I think it all connects back to that, but it's a twisted, sick, satanic way of traumatizing because it does seem to be. I have seen other pictures drawn by other SSP people that have shown those. I wouldn't show them on here, but I thought, yeah, they've been through the same thing as me.
Now, what do you mean by other SSP people?
Well, on Facebook, there's like a closed group of people who have been in the SS secret space program, and everybody has been traumatized. Everybody's been through mind control.
Now, why would a bunch of cosmonauts, or astronauts, or whatever, why would they need to be traumatized? And secondly, I just keep thinking about the Doctor Who thing, Series 8, to Kill the Moon, the whole moon covered in spiders. Anyway, what exactly do you mean by the secret space program? What is it?
Well, I recall while I was in the forces, while I was at my normal base, like RAF Cranwell, I recall being taken by truck. So not all of it is like 20 and back or whatever they say that I can recall, but there is some weird time thing within it for the Mars part, which I can't place. But there's a lot of detail with them in the Mars that I've got. So I could say maybe the Mars is an implanted memory, but is it because I've got such detail of plants, fauna, and animals now, which I'll show on over the weekend, but even how they propagate the plants. So,
well, you had a very good detail of the root structure. So the only way you would see root structure is in some kind of a lab where you can see the roots.
Well, you can like dig down. You can do all sorts of experiments with that in labs and things. But yeah, details that you don't have.
What color is the sky?
I don't see it as like. I see it as like a slightly duller, but like Earth sky.
Yeah, blue.
I don't see it as like.
Because the original pictures that came through in 1977 had a blue sky.
Yeah, I didn't see those, but this is what I see. And the plants, because of the gravitation on Mars, the plants grow either. But there's no water on the surface. I never saw it rain on Mars. Never saw it rain. But obviously there's water beneath. There is water beneath that they can tap into, and there are oases where the like bubbling springs can come up. So there are like areas like that, but no rain.
Where those? I'm talking about things like air pressure. What's the oxygen? I've been told it's like being at the top of Mount Everest.
Well, from what I recall, we had special suits on. There were black suits, and they had like. Do you know how insects can be very fine? Their limbs are very fine, but they're strong. They're very thin. Well, we had like an exoskeleton that was very thin. It was like a very thin, like exoskeleton, but also like a control suit that you could pee in and it would recirculate it. But you had like a visor that could come down. It would come down. You could breathe completely with it. Or in some places it would go up and you would just may have a bit of extra oxygen or something. But you wouldn't need it. You could breathe, but it was harder in some places and others. Some were so hard you had to wear a full mask.
So essentially, it's not a toxic atmosphere. It's just lower pressure.
It's just kind of, yeah, like you imagine if you go, as you say, go to the top of Everest. It's harder for you to breathe. So if you go up in altitude on Mars or somewhere or in different places, you can't breathe very easily because it's just too difficult. But other places you can, like the lower places.
Did you ever go to the famous Face on Mars, Cydonia, any places like that? Olympus Mons? Did you go over to the Martian rover and brush the sand off it so it could keep? Did you ever see any of the official NASA stuff that's there?
Well, no. What I saw was a base that I recall, and I've drawn it, and it's in a crater. Now, the reason they put it in a crater was because they could put electromagnetic force field around it a lot easier because of the shape of it and everything, and also above it too. And this was to keep the insectoids out. Now, there was only so much above ground, and the rest was below ground.
Well, I didn't see any landing or takeoff ports where that base was. So how do you get to and from it? Use the portal?
You land on top of the square on top if you're going to land, and then they have a lift system that goes up and down. So, and there's also you can go underneath too. You can go through that it's like a big square bit at the back. So it's a bit like a has as well. You can either land on top temporary or you can go in. So it's like
the pictures that you showed looks like a very small modular design, almost like a little bit like about the base, like Moonbase Alpha on Space 1999. It sort of had a.
Yeah, but your modular bases. It's the most, even now, they are now designing modular bases to go on Mars, by the latest NASA stuff that are designing. I mean, modular, certain shapes are very adaptable for space, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So what brings all that up there?
Well, a lot of it was, it's run by the Draco. So the Draco are involved with the ships and things.
Oh, so it's actually, it's Draco.
Yeah, it's Draco. So, they're in charge there. So they use their ships, they use their transport ships, things like that.
And so are we sort of guests there or what? I mean... What's our relationship with the Draco, and what do you describe as the Draco?
Once again, I've drawn them. The relationship with the Draco, we're slaves. We're all slaves. The whole, basically the planet is a slave. We're on a slave planet, basically, and the Draco are very much, we're below the food chain to the Draco. The Draco are above us in that respect. So everybody was a slave. And everybody still is a slave on this planet because it's still, the whole system is a slave system on this planet.
Well, I've heard that within this year, two things have happened. Last year. The tall whites were wiped out. B, the reptilians, as opposed to the Draco, they're now separated from Hive, and they now got own indigenous autonomy to go to where they're going to do and sort whatever they are, but they're below us. And the tall whites are gone, and we're with the Pleiadians or something. Don't hear too much about Draco. Draco seems to have been separated. What about all that?
There's still very much a powerhouse here, and even though they remain kind of aloof, they're there.
Do they have to remain aloof? Are they only doing that to keep the population calm if they just decided to turn up one day and walk down the high street?
Well, yeah, because the numbers of them, they are rather frigging horrific to see them. So yeah, they're not exactly a pleasant creature to look at. And Palladians are surrounding this planet. There's a lot of ships around this planet. You can't. Some of them are higher dimensional, so you have to be able to tune into them to see them. But there are Palladians around this planet now, and there are skirmishes with the Draco and other reptilians.
Now, one of the whistleblowers, a recently deceased whistleblower, a guy called Tomlinson, talked about we were building huge steel submarine hull craft, which in sections were sort of lifted up, anti-gravity or whatever, and assembled on the moon, and were made into like 2-mile long craft. And the plan is that we'll be leaving the solar system soon, within this century, because this planet's going to freeze.
Once you get to a certain level, even if this planet freezes, we can control things. It's not something to worry about once you get to a certain level of engineering and things like that. There's all sorts of things you can do, even planetary wise.
Well, tell us all about that, because I think we've terraformed Venus, the Moon, and Mars. Or were they already? They're already.
Well, the Mars got almost destroyed, didn't it? That's from what other people has said, so I don't recall all that. But from what people have said, Mars was more habitable, but because of various destructions,
the destruction of its main planet.
Its vegetation is not everywhere there. There's a lot of deserts there. A lot of rock, but there are places where there's trees, and according to a lot of people, going back in time, it was, there was a lot more vegetation there, and I don't see why there wouldn't have been at one time. Something seems very wrong there, that it doesn't rain and there is water underneath. They were talking only this week, I think, on one of the NASA things about exploding nuclear bombs there to try and get the water in the atmosphere to terraform.
It seems that they've already done that. There were 2 massive explosions which caused so much damage on Mars, and a lot of people were evacuated from there to here.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. How many years ago? About 4 years ago, was it, that there was a big flash on Mars?
There was a dust storm which was all around it, I think.
No, this was like a big flash. I remember them showing it on sort of closed sites, some of the sites that I was on. It was like the whole Mars seemed to light up. So I don't know what happened there.
Can you give any sort of reference to numbers on the Facebook closed group? Are there 10 people there, 50? No,
they're not all SSP. Some of them are researchers, but there's about 3,000. It's going up.
And who are the researchers? Are these people that we can access outside, or would like to be, or could be accessed to?
Well, I think you're wrong. I think your name's in the group, actually.
I am?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the Secret Space Program group. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
probably am. God, I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like Max was a member.
Yeah.
Tony's a member. Tony Rodriguez.
Right.
There's all people. I don't want to mention too many names because I don't want to
Tony
mention.
Rodriguez, his what is he? Is he from Free? No, that's a different guy.
No, he's.
Yeah.
No,
Did I?
There's. Sorry.
Did I just interview him?
I don't know.
Well, it's nice to know I'm on a site. I probably joined it years ago. I'm just so busy, such a busy man, right?
Yeah.
And so, what's the situation? You're Northwest, the whole Lake District thing. Have you talked to any of the further of the investigators there, David Moncur or anybody like that?
I haven't talked to any. Last weekend I was going to go for a conference, but I got really ill, so I couldn't go. So that was all to do with, because I'm on ongoing. I'm still in the secret space program.
Yeah.
So I am getting absent times, and it was only last weekend that I actually recalled something because there was an incident. So
what do you call an incident? Is that somebody having a crash on the M4, or is it what's an incident?
What I recall is a transport ship that was hit by Draco, and that we were all shook up in the ship, but it wasn't destroyed. And I was really shaken up last weekend. I wasn't very well. My whole body was like battered around, but I recall, normally I wouldn't recall anything, but I also recall the reason they give us mind wipes is because if the Draco get hold of us, they can't read our minds because they've already wiped them. So it's like a strategic.
So are we sort of now in open revolt, or are we about to sort of try and grab back the planet? How does that work?
It's a very delicate balance. It's like the planar ships around the Earth, but they can't sort of invade as such openly because of galactic rules and things. And also, it's partly up to us to do our own bit, everybody, every one of us, to break free of this control system. So it's not just them, it's up down to us as well. But they're trying to control the Draco's, body part and stuff like that. They're trading that sort of thing. So that's what it's like, a Cold War. It's like skirmishes up there. It's not out and out war, not at the moment anyway.
Well, where do the body part things come from? I mean, it seems that I know a certain truck going to Northern Ireland with Vietnamese people in it was part of that trade. If you are across the news in the UK, where a Northern Ireland truck driver has been prosecuted for the death of about 37 people, but they were dead already. They were frozen.
Yeah. Frozen. That's interesting. I know I experienced, it was me and my husband experienced an abduction by Draco, and I sent you the link to it, exactly where the spot is.
Yeah.
It's near the radio.
Radar Hill or something.
Radar Hill, yeah, that's
near Dulce.
And I found the actual location again because it was on my other computer that got fried, but I actually managed to find it again this week. And you can see there's a mound there that's very odd, and that looks like an entrance.
It looks like a crashed saucer or a huge bunker.
It's more of a bunker
or a warehouse of some kind.
That's what it looks like. And then what I remember is, even you can see on there's a warehouse and what looks like piled up fencing. But it was a temporary zone. It wasn't a permanent location. And there was no humans there. There was only Draco there. And they lined up this fencing right into that shed, except for a little gap just before you got there. And they were like, all the people in the line were in hypnotic states, and they were like butchering them or doing something horrific in there. They were definitely dying in there. But but it was not just me. My husband recalled it at the time as well. He saw different things, but that's the reason I don't eat meat anymore, because I'm not eating meat after that.
Yeah.
Because the Draco said to me, he says, when he picked us out the line, because we came out the hypnotic state, and he did mind to mind. He said, "Don't judge yours because you eat meat," and that stuck in my mind, and has stuck in my mind ever since, because I thought about that deeply, and I thought, yeah, I do eat meat at the time, and after that, every time I tried to eat meat, I felt really sick. So I don't eat any mammals. I do eat some fish, but I don't eat any.
Yeah.
I can't eat any mammals after that.
So that means if it's near Dulce, there must be a certain amount of they must have a certain amount of permission to be there. And I mean,
I don't know what permission they got, but there were no humans witnessing that, except they were in the lineup. There was only Draco. There was no humans. So they maybe they said everybody keeps out of this area for such a length of time, because it was a temporary thing. So maybe even the military around there aren't fully aware of that. I don't know, because maybe they just said, you're keeping away from here. That's it.
I mean, obviously those fences that were taken. I mean, what's the date of the photographs on Google that you got? Do you know what date it was?
No, I don't know what date it was. No, I haven't looked at that. I was trouble enough finding it, you know. I don't know if it's used more than once. I don't know if it's used regularly. So I don't know. But it's even if you have studied that, it's a very odd location. And my husband said, yeah, there's been activity there, because he knew about military stuff.
Now, you've got a very fine gentleman in the photographs. Is he your husband, or what's his...
Yeah, he was my husband. Yeah.
What do you mean was?
He passed away just over a year ago.
Oh, right. That was an unpleasant situation.
A very unpleasant situation, yeah. He was basically... That's a complicated one by itself, talking about that. But it was basically suicided, basically, by a Satanic group, which he'd been involved when he was younger. And I always saw him as like my protector. But after his death, I realized that he was more my handler than my protector.
Now, he did show the signs that he was a potential Knights Templar. He sort of dressed up in some kind of costume and had swords and stuff like that. Those pictures.
Past lives with him he recalled quite a few past lives. He was a black magician. Well, he was a black magician, let's put it that way.
So that has maybe had some blowback on him in this life?
Yeah, most certainly, because I had communication with him after his death through a friend who was a medium. I couldn't communicate with him because I kept getting attacked by negative when I tried to connect with him. I still can't connect with him.
Yeah.
Because he's too surrounded by darkness for me to go near him. And my friend's just very good at that, to ward that off. I can't do it the same. But yeah, he's working on himself, but yeah, he's still very much surrounded by very much dark elements. He'd done some pretty nasty things in his life, so when he was younger.
But he was bringing you to this sort of satanic stuff in Canada. I mean, what was that the situation?
Well,
I mean, why you're talking about a safe house and all that?
Because he'd left years before, you don't kind of leave that sort of group, because if you know Detroit, it's very heavy in Detroit, and we weren't far from Detroit, and all around Michigan and all around North America. This was a big group. It was a very bad group. I mean, they skinned people alive, and I knew from friends who had connections. They told me they were trying to get at my husband, and for about the last 5 years, they said I was under risk of being kidnapped and basically skinned alive. So it was like, yeah, I've lived through like Yeah, every day. I carried a tomahawk with me as defense because you weren't allowed to carry a gun. So at least I was thinking go down fighting if it came to it. But yeah,
Why would they do that? What's the reason why they do that?
It's revenge. It's ego. It's revenge. They're just sick. I mean, they wanted to get back at my husband. They were kind of sending demonic crap at him, and that's what got him in the end. But as he was weakening, he couldn't fight the demonic off the same, and he just. I was at work when he completely lost it, and as my mother-in-law said, yeah, there was a risk that he might have killed us all but he actually sacrificed himself at that point so he wouldn't kill me and the rest of the family. Because he cut his own throat. So it was a brutal death. But I'd lived with several years of this, but I thought afterwards, and Simon considered it as well, that they may well leave me alone after that. But obviously these egotistical assholes decided they weren't going to leave me alone, so they started on me, attacking me with demonic. Then managed to fight that off with recitations and help from the group, connecting consciousness group and people in it. And then I got electronic, but that was from the military over there. So I've been attacked by two groups.
So what's the purpose you're doing this now? I mean, this is important, what's happening now, what you're doing.
Well, what do you mean in the SSP or just generally?
Yeah, well, what you're doing right now, what you did with James Rink.
I think what's important now is about breaking us free from this prison planet. It's actually breaking us free finally from all this, because we just completely have been up to the higher dimensions, and here, up there, your consciousness expands, your perception expands.
Yes.
You have this kind of expansion of yourself. And when you come back down here, it's like a clamp going on your perception, and your consciousness gets clamped in. And the longer you're back down here, the more the clamp hits. So you realize how dense it is down here, how much negative is flowing around in our space around us.
Well, Tim Rifat refers to dark matter souls brought in because the Rothschilds have basically opened up loads of these portals in Western Europe, and these dark matter souls, dark matter insects, the whole thing have been coming through into this world, and they're to blame for that, which is why he's taken.
I think if you look back in history, it's been there for a long time.
Yeah, for at least the last 2,000 or 3,000 years.
They won't have helped. Let's face it. They keep them open. They keep all this crap going. But it's been there. You go back to the Roman times, how brutal that was. You go back before that, as far as history, allows.
Well, something dreadful came from the east of Europe.
Oh, yeah. East of Europe. Also the Middle East. There's a lot of violence been around there for a long time too. So, I think it's been here longer than the Rothschilds have been here. But of course, it depends how well you look back, how far they go back.
Yeah.
But
now, black goo. You said you were exposed to that file that you sent was exposed to Draco black goo. What about the Draco goo from the Falklands War in the British military that have got this stuff? What about that?
I don't know if that's the same stuff, but I can describe what it looks like. This was in a bath-like tub, but it was like a rectangle, and it kind of glowed a bit on the inside. But it was like sentient. It would like spike up.
Yes.
It would move. And when you were put in it, it subdivided, and it completely entered every part of you. It was like completely went in your entire body. And then what I didn't know at that, because I recalled that, but what I didn't, well, I think I did know actually when I think about it, because I remember when younger, I was like, say, to move it around to heal myself, this black stuff. So I was slightly aware of it. But I was more aware from the regression exactly what it was about. So it was from another planet. This wasn't Earth black goo. So I don't know, as you were saying, I don't know if this
our crude oil is meant to have black sentient elements in it, which that's why it's called black goo. It's like moving sentient oil, and it's fundamental to creating long chain molecules. When it meets seawater at warm temperatures, salt seawater, and it start creating long chain molecules and stuff. So the reports are. That's a wonderful dog.
I know. Yeah, she's been through the mill as well. I'm your raven, poor girl.
She's
but
lovely.
yeah, yeah, she probably really does want to go now. But yeah, so the black goo, this particular black goo was alien. It was not from this planet, and it left a residual amount in my body, basically.
Is that because it deliberately left it there?
Yeah, it was left there as a control mechanism by the Dracos. So they could, on top of the mind control, it's another control method, basically, and it's a communication too, as well as implants. Because I did find an EMF reading in my lower spine of an implant. I've had some since, but I found some.
I mean, you're saying you're continuing to be abducted as such. I mean, you're working. We have an ongoing situation.
This is something now I agree with. It's from what I understand. This is fighting the Draco. Basically, it's controlling airspace, stuff like that. So it's not since I've been in Britain, which isn't that long. So that's it's a positive side. It wasn't like I don't know what if the other group were doing, why they were wanting to target me so much. Well, I've been passed on to another group now. I know they're called Black Wolf, and I researched it. I think they're a Russian group, but connected to America.
It's funny that Barry King called himself Lone Wolf, I think.
Well, this was like a wolf badge that I saw on them, and it said Black Wolf. But no, they said Black Wolf, but actually on the logo it didn't say it. And it was special operations though. But it was like a snarling wolf with blood and things like that coming through its red eyes.
Yeah.
But from what my research, there's only Russian groups with that, and I was dowsing it, and it came back Russian. And but the Americans and the Russians are kind of allies once you get up to that stage.
Yeah.
So it figures that it would be a Russian group.
So what about the situation where you've arrived back home in Blighty? You got your own furniture now. Your furniture's come and all that.
Just this week. Well, last week actually.
Yeah.
Because I got to Monday again. Yeah. So literally just got it. So I'm moving on here as well.
So you're with family and.
Yeah, I'm just with family at the moment. So
that's
I'm in
great.
Like the extension.
That's great. It's really good to be with family then.
Oh yeah, it is good to be with family because I've been away from them for so long. I'll probably get my own place eventually. Depends on the situation.
Yeah.
So,
can you vote yet?
Not yet. No.
You need to get your registration in for the election. You could get it in now. Yeah.
Who do you vote for? I was looking at who to vote for. Oh, flipping heck. Yeah.
So, I mean, have you had much contact with any of the other super soldiers? Sort of anybody in the UK, or have you not really
I've not a chance yet, really, but I will do as time goes on. I've only been back a few weeks. So I've been sorting out so many different things. But yeah, I certainly will communicate with them if you go. The more I find out who's around and about here, definitely.
Well,
Um,
we've done about an hour and 10 minutes or so. Do you want to sort of round off on this
I
for
think I
now?
better hide because my dog wants to go out.
Yeah.
My dog's saying, "Yeah, time to go."
Well, we do. This is November the 18th, 2019, and the conference, little micro conference, is in your honor. It's all about you.
Oh God.
So, and we've got a couple of other people. We do hope that have you been able to communicate with David Griffin at all?
Not yet. He hasn't written back to me yet, and obviously I haven't got proper communication with him. So
He's sort of
cross
near
fingers.
Leeds. He's near Leeds,
All
on the
right,
other
that's
side of the
kind of on
Pennines
the
there.
other side, really. But
Yeah.
yeah, I no, I haven't had any answer back from him yet. So
Well, he's been
let's
doing an
see.
awful lot of research and stuff up in the mountains up there, and Welsh mountains of Scotland and all that. Things
Oh,
going
that's
on.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, we'll say goodnight. Basis 102 Part 2 with Judy Phelps, a super soldier from Canada. Hasta la
From Canada.
vista. Or, I mean, how do you feel you want to be addressed?
I'm a northerner.
You're a northerner, oh bloody hell, Jesus, well,
Yeah,
that's not a northern
I'm a
accent.
northerner, you know. No, actually most of the time I've got a good sense of humour despite everything that's happened because you just got to
Jesus.
keep a good sense of humour.
I mean, do you get any help from the RAF? Or you just write your expat and away you go? Have you ever actually left the RAF?
Yeah, well, I actually signed out the RAF on the same day I signed back into Marconi, the special secret site for when I was doing space and military. Marconi in Lincoln, Doddington Roadside.
Oh, I mean, I worked for Marconi very briefly. When I was a student up at Silver Nose. No. Scotland, Edinburgh. Inertial guidance systems. Then I went into pirate radio in Dublin. God Almighty, and a lot of stuff happened there. So, I mean, does that mean you're still working in terms of technology in a job like that, or what?
No. I was doing basically because of my qualifications in Canada. I was doing any job, but it got me working with so many different sorts of people from all over the world. So it was really interesting in that respect. But now I'm back here. I'm deciding what I'm going to do. There's various options I can do because I've got quite a few qualifications. So
You're smart then.
well,
Hello, I'm smart. Hello.
Oh, you don't say you're smart, you know.
I'm smart, stupid. Yeah. Well, at least we got on. Is there anything else you want to sort of cover? Any important little things, changes and stuff like that? Any little niggling, little?
It would take too long, and my dog wants to go out.
Yeah.
But there's a lot. I'm now in contact with 4 different species of arachnid. One of them's like the Vietnam ones, which was a bit dodgy, being in communication with those ones. But they're like the ones from Vietnam, but they're from what the descriptions say. But they are black and they are very mean looking. They would eat humans given a chance, but they are trying to change. It's a bit like human beings themselves. There's different races even on this planet that we don't realize.
What sort of existence are they in? What sort of size are they? I mean, if they look like alien, are they sort of 6 legs, 8 legs? What?
8 legs, and they're like big. They're Volkswagen size, or whatever you want to call them, like the ones they was talking about in Vietnam, and they are mean looking. These ones, they are kind of jet black and mean.
Max Spears and James Casbolt talked about diamond spiders. Would they have a diamond look to them, a diamond exoskeleton?
Not these ones, no. These are more. They look like a spider. They look like a black, like a wolf spider type.
Yeah.
Very black. The legs are very black but big. Now the jumping spiders were original ones that I got communication with. They're benevolent. They're different, totally different. And like the jumping spider, they have the more upright face, so the more um, they're not as scary to look at.
Is it just because the spider's got 8 eyes and not very friendly because it eats insects? What's it eating? Surely a spider would be a friend on Mars. Was it eat those other ones?
Well, Mars, yeah, they would eat. Well, there's different creatures on Mars anyway, so they'd eat different creatures on Mars.
I mean, this is the main thing about these things. What do they live on? What's their food chain? In what domain do they live on?
Well, now the jumping spiders are higher dimension. They go in and out of. They can phase in and out of fourth. They're precogs. They exist on. They farm like in caves. They have this like farm. They farm this substance, which is like it's like a mossy sort of substance. But they can digest that. You know, it's something like ants can farm things. These particular spiders can also farm the jumping spiders can also farm this sort of edible substance, and they will defend that area. But you know, they'll guide people away from that, the benevolent ones. Whereas the other ones, if you venture too close to them, they'll eat you. They'll just take you and you'll disappear.
And where is that? I mean, where are we looking for? Where do we
I
not
don't.
go down? Are
I
these in the
don't.
caverns of the earth or what? I mean, where is this? Is
Yeah,
it in
they're in the
is it in
cabin.
this?
Now, the benevolent ones are in the Lake District. I know that because I've been told, and they are all over the planet, but some are in the Lake District. Now, some of these others, I don't actually know their location yet. So I may find out, but this is more recent, this encounter with those as well. So I'm not certain of their location at the moment.
I mean, James Campbell referred to octoforms and shooting them down. One crashed down near Plymouth. I think it was close to St Ives, Penzance, somewhere down there. They
Well, I've
actually
seen
fly in
sort of,
craft. They sort of fly in craft or some kind of thing.
well, ones that have got very big. It depends what size, because I've seen in like a higher council when I went there, there were some beings
Where's
that were like,
there?
oh, that's up a dimension. That's a different dimension than here. Um, so that's in a higher dimension when you go there. You know, you leave your body for that one. It's your ethereal body that goes there. It's
So
not
it's
your
not
physical
exactly you're
body.
going to meet them on a high street when you go down for a pint of milk.
No, no, not those. No, you're not going to see them. But even the benevolent ones, you're not going to ever see them unless they want you to see them, because they're precogs, so they know you're coming before you're coming, so they choose. You know.
Do they know that Sasquatch and the other hominids, the abominable snowman, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, there's lots of sightings of those creatures in Scotland and places like that all over the world now. But they seem to be able to phase in and out of reality as well.
I've not seen them personally, but yeah, by what it sounds like they can phase in and out of. But you see, I think there's pocket. I think you've not just got like the third dimension, the fourth dimension. I think you've got like you can phase out of our perspective, our vision, which is very easy, and probably phase out of our technology to be able to see it. So you might be able to phase a certain way out of that, like interdimensional, sort of in between the dimensions. So they're kind of invisible to us, and you couldn't hit them or anything.
Yeah.
And then phase back in. Now, I think the arachnids can phase right out into the fourth dimension. But maybe some of these others, I don't know how far they phase.
I mean, what about the Greys and the other aliens in those sort of dimensions? I mean, do they have any relationship with those sort of typical aliens, or what? Or what? Any sort of?
I don't know. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. I'm learning every day. So it's like.
But why are you seem to be fairly unique in been able to detect or see or be in contact with these beings?
Well, the reason I'm in contact with the arachnids is because they as part of one of the experiments, they spliced in some arachnid genes into me and then took my DNA and spliced it into creating a hybrid human arachnid.
Is this so that you as a human or human type people, super soldiers, can then adopt the properties of that species and they can adopt the properties of humans? Because I understand that they harvest the spider's thread, the spider's web, for the use of armor, and they make armor out of it.
Well, yeah, they're doing that now. I mean, look at the goats that they've already produced. That's just an example that's mainstream that you can look on the internet. They've already done it with goats, that the milk creates like this thread that they can weave into protective garments, tougher than Kevlar and stuff.
And also silk spiders. I mean, silkworms making silk, which is as strong as a spider's web.
Exactly, all these things. You think they haven't been experimenting on everything you could possibly imagine and more? Of course they have.
I.e., that's what Porton Down is.
Yeah, and now I remember this is a memory I had that was like separated that I never forgot. But I remember seeing a baby with like legs of a arachnid and the head of a baby, and that really freaked me out because I was like horrified. And I was really upset by that. But later on, more recently, we've communicated. A friend of mine, we psychically connect anyway, me and my friend. So as we get together, we amplify. And we connected with him now. And he's in an underground base in the Lake District.
Is he under stress? Is he sort of being treated okay? Or is he...
No, he's been treated all right. They daren't treat him bad. Not with the arachnids. If they do, they'll pay. They would be
happy spider, nicey spider, lovely spider. Yeah. Don't kill me.
Yeah, exactly. You don't mess with them because they're formidable. You don't want them as their enemy. That's for certain. They've been very neutral with the Draco, but if they decided they wanted to wipe a Draco out, they could do it because they're precogs, and they're very strong. So. Yeah, they could take on a Draco and rip them apart if they wanted to.
I mean, the movie Starship Troopers, the bugs, all that. Did you see that film?
I did, yeah.
Has it got any credence like a lot of films? I mean, it seems like something sponsored by Washington, the Pentagon or something.
Well, to a certain extent, yes, but they look different. The ones that I remember, they're more insectoids, but the arachnids don't look like them at all. So they don't, they're not at all that shape or anything.
Yeah.
Nothing like them. Unless, I haven't met all the species, so I don't know if there's some around that do look like that.
Well, I mean, you seem to be a really excellent ambassador, a very excellent conveyor to explain this. It just comes over really relaxed and really well.
Because I had arachnophobia before last year. I was like so terrified of spiders, you wouldn't believe it. When we come in,
this is all stuff in the last year that you've been counting.
Yep. But I decided February this year, I made a bargain with Source and I made a bargain with higher dimensionals that I would do what I could to be a mediator within groups. And I forgave. It was all about forgiveness. I forgave all that went on, the torture and everything that went on, because even with my husband and things like that, I forgave it all. I let it go because it's the way to get up to the higher dimensions. If you don't forgive, it's letting that blackness, it stops the spiral of perpetrator victim.
Yes.
If you take revenge, that continues the spiral round and round, and I've broken that. And I'm not going back to that. So, yeah, and because of that, I've had an awful lot more visitations from different ETs, from different species, because I let go of that. That's it. It's,
That's fantastic. And maybe next time you can, or maybe at the lecture, we'll have a go. Just take it easy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll leave that for now and take the dog out.
Yeah, but it's a very positive future. It's just we all need to do our little bit,
Yes.
basically, as much as we can. Even being awake is something. Even the tiniest little thing helps, So, every little thing helps with us all. That's
Good.
also a positive note, definitely.
Okay, well, until next time, Judy Phelps. And obviously, November the 18th, we do have you coming down, and I hope it'll be...
Well, it's the
24th.
Yeah.
The conference is the 24th.
Yeah.
And and also in the spirit of collecting consciousness, it's connecting consciousness, isn't it? It's a big deal for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I gather there'll be a couple of people, local people. I do talk to a guy in the group connecting consciousness. Okay, we'll take that beautiful dog out, and good night.
Yeah, go. Yeah, right.
Bye for now. Bye bye.
All right. Thanks to everybody. Bye.
Bye.